There's a sign on the wall, but she wants to be sure.
1971. The Vietnam War was still consuming a generation. The Beatles had dissolved less than a year earlier, leaving a vacuum at the center of popular music that nobody was certain could be filled. And inside recording studios across England and America, a group of musicians were independently and simultaneously producing work that would define the next 5 decades of rock. Not one landmark record. 15. In a single calendar year. Imagine. Baba O'Reilly. American Pie.
Long, long time ago, I can see
Life on Mars.
to the seat with the clearest view.
These are not obscure deep cuts from a golden era. These are the foundational documents of what rock music became, and they were all recorded within 12 months of each other. Today we are going through all 15 in detail. If you're new here, subscribe right now. This channel covers exactly this, the real documented stories behind rock's most important recordings and the legends who made them. Number 1. Led Zeppelin, Stairway to Heaven.
It's whispered that soon.
In 1970, Jimmy Page and Robert Plant retreated to Bron Weir Or, a remote Welsh cottage with no electricity, to write. Page had been building a musical framework, a composition that would evolve structurally from quiet and intimate to enormous and electric. When Plant sat down with the framework, the lyrics arrived almost in a single sitting. He later described the experience as writing almost unconsciously, words appearing on the page faster than he could account for them. The now famous opening line about a lady who's sure all that glitters is gold came from that session. Recording began in December 1970 and ran through February 1971. The gradual evolution from acoustic gentleness to electric thunder that defines the track's architecture became one of the band's deliberate compositional trademarks.
And it makes me wonder.
The lyrics operate on multiple levels simultaneously. There are Shakespearean references to illusion and appearance. There are echoes of Tolkien's enchanted landscapes, themes of materialism, spiritual uncertainty, and the consequences of choices run through the text in ways that Plant himself has acknowledged shift meaning for him as he ages.
Your head is humming out of Woco, in case you don't know.
Stairway to Heaven debuted live on March 5, 1971, in Belfast. Initial audience reaction was subdued. The song was new and unfamiliar. It became a concert highlight within months, with live versions regularly stretching beyond 10 minutes to accommodate extended solos and improvisational passages. It was never released as a single in the United States. Number 2. Black Sabbath, Children of the Grave. From Master of Reality, Black Sabbath's third album, Children of the Grave continued the anti-war messaging the band had, established with War Pigs and Electric Funeral, but with increased urgency and a heavier sonic framework. Recorded at Island Studios in London, the track showcases Tony Iommi's guitar work at its most thunderously focused, riffs built not for technical display, but for physical impact. Ozzy Osbourne's vocals carry a chilling quality that suits the lyrical content precisely, a direct call to young people to rise against war and stand for peace. Delivered at a moment when the Vietnam War was consuming the generation the song was addressing. The track became a live staple immediately, with a particularly documented performance at the 1974 California Jam Festival before an enormous outdoor audience. Subsequent generations rediscovered it through covers. White Zombie's 1994 version on the Sabbath tribute album Nativity in Black, becoming perhaps the most commercially successful reinterpretation. Children of the Grave is the document of Black Sabbath at their most socially purposeful, heavy metal as genuine protest music, not aesthetic posturing. Number 3. Don McLean, American Pie.
Long, long time ago, I can still remember.
Don McLean was a child delivering newspapers on the morning of February 3, 1959. American Pie runs over 8 minutes. It traces the cultural arc of America from the late 1950s through the end of the 1960s.
And I knew if I had my chance that I could make those.
McLEAN encoded specific events and figures into deliberately cryptic language, creating a lyrical puzzle that has generated analysis and interpretation for 5 decades without producing consensus. It topped charts globally in 1971 and was later entered into the National Recording Registry for its cultural significance.
With every paper I deliver, bad news on the door.
In 2000, Madonna recorded a dance pop cover that McLEAN, who had every commercial reason to accept the compliment graciously, called a gift from a goddess. 54 years later, American Pie is still being analyzed. That is not because the answers are hidden. It is because McLEAN wrote something that functions differently depending on what the listener brings to it, and that quality does not age. Number 4. Three Dog Night, Joy to the World.
Jeremiah was a bullfrog!
The song opens with the line Jeremiah was a bullfrog, and by the band's own account, 2 of the 3 vocalists considered it absurd. Chuck Negron championed it because he understood what the others didn't yet. The playful, direct, completely unpretentious energy of the song was exactly its commercial end.
And he always had somebody far away singing.
Written by Hoyt Axton and initially received as a novelty, Joy to the World was released as a single in February 1971 and certified gold within 2 months. It eventually sold over 5 million copies worldwide and earned a Grammy nomination. The track became a cultural fixture, appearing in Forrest Gump, covered by Little Richard and by Axton himself. Its sing-along chorus operates with a simplicity that most rock writers overthink their way past. The song does not ask anything difficult of its listener. It delivers joy directly and without apology. In a year filled with ambitious, complex, architecturally demanding rock records, Joy to the World was proof that simplicity executed with complete conviction. Number 5. Jethro Tull, Aqualung. Co-written by Ian Anderson and his then-wife Jenny Franks, Aqualung was built around an uncomfortable subject, the life of a homeless man. Observed without sentimentality or condescension, the lyrics offer a raw, unfiltered portrait. Also titled Aqualung, expanded those themes into a broader critique of organized religion and social hypocrisy. Despite never being released as a standalone single, the song became a cornerstone of Jethro Tull's live performances, regularly reimagined with extended solos and shifting, arrangements that allowed the band to develop the emotional content differently each night. Its cultural longevity extended into video game licensing, too, and continued live performances that have introduced it to audiences born decades. The album it anchors remains one of progressive rock's most commercially and critically significant documents. Number 6. The Rolling Stones, Brown Sugar. Mick Jagger wrote most of Brown Sugar during the 1969 filming of Ned Kelly in Australia, carrying the song through the intervening period to a 3-day recording session at Muscle Shoals Sound Studio in Alabama in December 1969, with the final release coming on April 16, 1971, has the lead single from Sticky Fingers. The track launched countless Rolling Stones shows over the following decades with an opening energy that established the band's live presence before the first verse was fully delivered. Its controversy, always present, finally produced a concrete institutional response in 2021 when the band removed it from their no-filter tour setlist due to the songs. That decision, 50 years after the song's release, demonstrated the extent to which its content had remained genuinely confrontational rather than historically neutralized. Little Richard recorded his own version the same year of original release. The song's capacity to cross genre contexts while retaining its essential character is the mark of a composition that operates on more than surface level. Number 7. George Harrison, What Is Life? Harrison wrote What Is Life in 1969 while driving to a Billy Preston session in London. The song was initially intended for Preston, but became one of the defining tracks on Harrison's landmark 1970 triple album All Things Must Pass, released as a U.S. single on February 15, 1971. The production, handled alongside Phil Spector, brought together Eric Clapton, members of Delaney and Bonnie and Friends, string arrangements by John Barham, and backing vocals. From Badfinger, a concentration of talent that gives the track a warmth and density that rewards repeated listening. Critics have spent decades debating whether the song is a love letter to Pattie Boyd or a devotional piece in Harrison's ongoing spiritual framework. The honest answer may be that Harrison did not experience those as different categories. A live version recorded at Tokyo Dome during Harrison's 1991 tour with Eric Clapton's band was released in 1992. The song appeared in Goodfellas. It has been covered by Olivia Newton-John, among others. It currently accumulates millions of streams, a post-Beatles solo record still actively finding new audiences. If you haven't subscribed yet, right now is the moment. This channel covers the real documented stories behind the music that built rock's golden era. Every video built on facts, context, and genuine respect for the history. Number 8. Yes, Roundabout. The song was written in the back of a van. In March 1971, during a tour leg running from Aberdeen to Glasgow, Scotland, past so many traffic roundabouts along the route that the repetition became a conversation, then a lyrical framework, then the conceptual foundation of one of progressive rock's most celebrated compositions. Released in November 1971 on Fragile, Yes's fourth studio album and the record that established the band's commercial identity, Roundabout became the live centerpiece of nearly every Yes concert that followed. Its technical demands across every instrument in the arrangement served as a recurring demonstration of what the band could do collectively. Its cultural reach extended to Rock Band 3, to Jack Black's declaration of Rick Wakeman's keyboard solo as his personal favorite in School of Rock, to a sustained presence on streaming platforms that suggests a consistent pipeline of new listeners discovering it. Roundabout is progressive rock at its most democratically constructed, complex enough to reward technical attention, driven enough to hold listeners with no interest in theory. That combination is rare, and it is why the song has never required an anniversary to remain relevant. Number 9. T-Rex. Get It On. Mark Bolan wrote Get It On during T-Rex's U.S. tour following the success of Hot Love, working out the rhythm with drummer Bill Legend in New York. The song's debt to Chuck Berry's Little Queenie is not concealed. Bolan lifted the iconic riff openly and included a direct lyrical reference as a spontaneous fade-out acknowledgement during recording at Trident Studios in London. Released in July 1971, the track hit number 1 in the United Kingdom and became the engine of Bolan's ascent to rock legend status. The swaggering groove, the theatrical delivery, the glittery persona, all of it converged on this record. Bolan's influence on David Bowie during this period is documented and acknowledged. The glam rock movement that followed in the early 1970s traces a direct line back to what Bolan established here. The Power Station's 1985 cover reached number 9 on the US Billboard Hot 100, a commercially significant second life for a record that had already defined its era 14 years earlier. Number 10. America. A Horse with No Name.
And the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound.
Dewey Bunnell wrote A Horse with No Name in Dorset, England, drawing on two sources that had nothing to do with each other: surrealist desert imagery of Salvador Dali and M.C. Escher, and his childhood memories of the American Southwest. Originally titled Desert Song, the track symbolized a psychological withdrawal from life's noise, a blank, quiet space used for recovery and reflection. The desert and the horse function as deliberate abstractions, a nowhere place for a mind that needs to stop. Warner Brothers released America's debut album in Europe without the track and saw a modest commercial response. Once A Horse with No Name began climbing US charts, they re-released the album with the song included. The result was platinum status. The song functioned as a commercial rescue for the album it wasn't originally part of. Its cultural footprint extended to BoJack Horseman and to the posthumous Michael Jackson track A Place with No Name, which drew directly from its framework. Criticized across 50 years for abstract lyrics while simultaneously being loved for its atmospheric quality. Number 11. David Bowie. Life on Mars.
The seats with the clearest view,
Life on Mars originated from a creative dispute. Bowie had previously written a melody intended for a French song called Comme d'Habitude, which Paul Anka acquired and transformed into My Way for Frank Sinatra. Bowie's version was rejected. Rather than abandon the musical impulse, he wrote Life on Mars as a direct, sharp, poetic counterpoint to the song that had displaced his original contribution, a surreal response to being outmaneuvered commercially. The result, released on the 1971 album Hunky Dory, weaves glam rock flamboyance, cabaret theatricality, and art rock sophistication into a single track whose lyrics through surrealist imagery that resists literal interpretation by design. A bored girl, a lawman beating up the wrong guy, sailors fighting in the dance hall. The images accumulate without resolving, and that irresolution is precisely the point. Mick Rock's promotional video, Bowie in a vivid turquoise suit against a stark white background, became one of the defining visual documents of the early 1970s glam rock era. Artists from Barbra Streisand to Trent Reznor to Audra McDonald have covered it. Each version highlights a different facet of the original's emotional range, which is the surest possible measure of a composition's depth. Number 12. Rod Stewart. Maggie May. Stewart drew the song from personal experience, a brief romance in 1961 with an older woman he met at a concert. He did not use her real name. The title came from a traditional Liverpool folk song about a prostitute, a borrowing that gave the track an additional layer of cultural texture without requiring the listener to know the source. Recording began with a rough demo at Morgan Sound Studios. Stewart returned to the tape and built the lyrics carefully, lines that captured youthful confusion, bittersweet feeling, and the specific sting of being both grateful and damaged by the same experience simultaneously. The mandolin that gives Maggie May its signature sonic identity was performed by Ray Jackson of Lindisfarne. A famous Top of the Pops performance featured DJ John Peel miming the mandolin on camera, one of the more surreal television moments of the era. The track became Stewart's first major solo success and the genuine launch of his solo career, reaching number 1 in both the United States and United Kingdom simultaneously. Matthew Sweet and Susanna Hoffs have covered it, among others. None have matched the unguarded emotional quality of the original. The sense that Stewart was singing about something he had not yet fully processed, and that incompleteness is what makes the song work. Number 13. John Lennon, Imagine. The song's origins are more collaborative than its single authorship suggests. Lennon later acknowledged directly that much of Imagine's lyrical vision came from Yoko Ono's conceptual art practice, specifically her 1964 book Grapefruit, which consistently instructed its reader to imagine alternative states of existence. The song is an application of that instruction to the political and social conditions of 1971, recorded at Lennon's home studio at Tittenhurst Park in England, with final overdubs at the record plant in New York City. The music video was filmed in the same location. Lennon at a white grand piano as Ono opens curtains and fills the white room with light. The visual metaphor is direct and has become inseparable from the song's cultural identity. Its subsequent history is documented across every form of public commemoration. Elton John performed it throughout his 1980 world tour. Queen performed it at Wembley Arena the night after Lennon's murder. Bowie performed a tribute version in Hong Kong in 1983. On what would have been Lennon's 50th birthday, the song was broadcast to an estimated 1 billion people worldwide. The song currently appears in films, at international events, and in moments of collective grief and aspiration on every continent. Its presence requires no promotion. It has simply become part of the permanent cultural record. Number 14. The Who, Baba O'Reilly. Pete Townshend built the song's foundation from a synthesizer loop, a hypnotic, repetitive electronic pattern that plays before any other instrument or voice enters the track. The title honors two specific figures: Indian spiritual leader Meher Baba, who deeply influenced Townshend's philosophical development, and minimalist composer Terry Riley, whose approach to repetition and electronic texture directly informed the production methodology. Originally conceived as part of Townshend's ambitious Lifehouse project, an interactive rock opera concept that ultimately proved too complex to execute as conceived, the song was repurposed for Who's Next, where it opens the album with one of the most recognizable 30-second introductions in rock history. Roger Daltrey's vocal entrance after that synthesizer buildup functions as a controlled explosion, the release of tension that the opening loop establishes. The song is now widely known as Teenage Wasteland after its repeated chorus lyric, though that was never its title. The misidentification is itself a cultural document. The chorus connected with audiences so directly that they absorbed it as the song's identity. Pearl Jam's 2003 Madison Square Garden live performance is among the most celebrated concert renditions. The Who performed it as their closing song at festivals and major events for decades. It remains what Townshend designed it to be, a statement about youthful defiance that refuses to sound dated regardless of when it is played. Number 15. Pink Floyd, Echoes. Echoes occupies the entire second side of metal, Pink Floyd's 1971 album, running 23 minutes without a conventional chorus, without a radio-friendly hook, without any of the structural compromises that the music industry uses to make recordings commercially accessible. It was built from fragments, unfinished pieces, ambient textures, experimental sounds that the band assembled over months of studio work. The opening sound, a sonar-like ping produced by Richard Wright's piano run through a Leslie speaker and a Benson Eckerec, sets the sonic environment before a single, conventional musical element appears. David Gilmour's slide guitar work throughout the piece moves through emotional states rather than displaying technical facility. Wright's keyboards suggest light on water, depth, spatial distance. Roger Waters' lyrics address empathy and human connection, themes he would develop further and more explicitly on The Dark Side of the Moon 2 years later. The track premiered live in 1971 under the working title The Return of the Son of Nothing. It was filmed at Pompeii in 1972 for the celebrated concert film that documented the band performing it in an empty Roman amphitheater with no audience. In 12 months. That is not a coincidence. That is what happens when artists of that caliber are given something urgent to respond to. Drop a comment right now. Tell me where you're watching from and which of these 15 you grew up with. Which one still gives you chills? And if you're not subscribed yet, do it right now. This channel is built for exactly this. The full, documented, deeply researched stories behind the music and artists that defined rock's golden era. Every video goes past the surface. Every upload respects the history.